All right. Welcome back to Frenemies Podcast, episode 13. Man, we are racking it up. We are getting
13,
up there.
my
man.
favorite number.
Yeah?
One week it was your favorite number.
That was 11 was mine. What's your favorite number, Ryan?
7.
Seven
I was hoping you were going to
digits
say like
get a date?
67. That way we had to make it to that.
No, we're good.
Tim, what's your favorite number?
I'm a 13 guy as
He's a
well.
13,
Yeah,
okay.
seems
You
to be a
don't
lucky
believe that
number.
lucky
I was
part of
married
it?
on a Friday the 13th. It's been pretty good for me so far.
you
So
go.
yeah,
All right. You know what's been unlucky so far this year? Le'Veon Bell owners.
So guess what
Boom.
today is? The 13th.
The 13th. Hey, Le'Veon Bell news goes to Ryan. What would you like to tell everybody?
I don't know, like, if you aren't in a keeper league and don't have Connor, you know, I hope you can get over yourself and come
Drop
back
Le'Veon
next
Bell.
year.
Yeah.
I dropped him in the other league I had him in. I traded for him early in the year. I gave up Mark Ingram and Alshon Jeffrey to try to get the upside there.
Yeah.
I had James Conner, and I dropped him today.
Now, with the keeper leagues, if you have Bell in a keeper league, Sean, what do you think owners should do with him?
I would honestly always shop a player when news comes out like that. You never know what the value is. If you could get something that's worth something this year and next year, like say you could get, I don't know, maybe a David Johnson might be a good one because he's going to have value the rest of this year, and I would say honestly their value might be similar going into next year. So that might be somebody to target. But if you're getting like RB2s and not keeper worth, you want to make sure you get something that's worth keeping because Le'Veon Bell will be a good keeper next year.
Yeah, no matter what team, he's going to be a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
Is that the type of guy? He doesn't have to walk into the right situation. He can be good no matter where he goes.
I think his involvement in the pass game really dictates that. I think, he's such a good receiver coming out of the backfield. I think where we could see him struggles if he goes to a team with a poor offensive line, and his little dance behind the line might not work so well if they get a ton of penetration. So I think, his value as a receiver really is what makes him solid as a keeper. But if you're keeping him, you get to at least hold on to him long enough to see which team he ends up on. And then you can really make that decision for yourself of whether or not he's worth the keep. Depending on where he is, he could be another fantasy stud, or he could blow up. And after sitting out a year, who knows?
Yeah, I like to see what Ryan does in the offseason if he tries to dangle him for picks.
I tried
or
to low
something.
ball him. He wasn't into it.
Yeah. I tried it earlier with Josh Gordon for Bell. He didn't go there.
Man, he's
Oh,
one
we
of those
gotta-
guys that just is so freaking. Just having him on my team just felt like felt like safe in my fantasy
Yes.
world. Having
Your
Le'Veon
safe
there.
zone with Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you got, Sean?
I was just going to say we got to make sure we mention here the sexy voice you've been hearing is
Oh,
Tim
yes.
James.
Tim James in the
joining
house.
us. We all lost this week in our fantasy league, so we don't feel like we're worthy to just be the only ones giving you advice.
We
So
had to bring a winner in.
here.
Yes.
I'm
Man
on
on
a
the
little
up.
bit of a run here,
There
but
you are. You
yeah.
whooped. Well, not whooped. You beat me with 10.
Got a little nervous there.
You
But
did get nervous. My kicker was like trying to help me out there in that Monday night game, but I had just terrible lineup compared to yours. I'm like, jeez.
It was a bad week for buys for you.
I had, everybody, like almost all my starters, receiver.
I wonder if that coincides with the fact that the Vikings were on bye.
Probably. Well, it only
Seems to
matters
be half your
with,
team.
with Thielen, because I only got Thielen and
That's
Rudolph.
true. Yeah, you gave me
Rudolph
credit.
does nothing anyways, hardly this year. So. Anyways, all right, let's get to a party question. Today's question, guys, is if you were a TV character, who would you be? So we kind of TV movies were, something genre and entertainment. We were trying to pick one for each other, not trying to say, I'll choose one for myself. And someone who put Sean's character, please speak to that. Why
Well,
is he?
I put my character because
Oh,
nobody
why are
picked
you?
one for me.
Why are you Marshall Erickson
I just feel
from
like
How I Met Your Mother?
when I watched that show, I always thought that I was like Marshall Erickson. I came from a big family. I was, kind of the guy that was more of the nice guy and, married the first girl that he dated and all that type of stuff. And so I just always related with Marshall Erickson.
Are you a Vikings fan like Marshall?
I'm not.
Dang
no.
it.
No, but I feel the pain of the Vikings fan. So
Oh yeah, I love that episode when he talked about the 1998
Yeah.
season, the kick. I was just like, yes, I was right there too. All right, Tim, we're gonna go to your character. I totally agreed with this one, Sherlock Holmes,
probably the coolest one you could possibly get.
I'm not mad.
Benedict Cumberbatch version. I was
Yeah.
when they said it, it clicked with me. I'm like, no brainer.
Yeah,
Yes.
like he could do it in real life.
Yeah.
This list also shows that we're generally encouraging to one another. Tim likes to work on his powers of observation. He's a smart dude. He's extremely sassy.
Sassy to the max.
Sassy dude. And I think it's a as good a fit as we have on this
Yeah, it's
list.
definitely
If
the
not
best
the best
one.
fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and then we got Ryan. Sean, who do we pick for Ryan?
So at
here?
first we had Andy from Parks and Rec, but then
Yeah.
we pivoted and realized Chris Traeger was way
Chris
better.
Traeger.
So if you know Ryan at all, he's definitely a fitness geek. He just goes crazy for it.
Yes.
High energy, super corny.
Extremely
Yeah.
corny.
So it's a great fit.
Corniest of the corn stalks. That made no sense.
A little bit of a hypochondriac.
Well, I'll tell you, the one that we had the hardest one was with Chris over there.
I'm so indefinable.
He's so mysterious.
There's just not a character out there yet.
International
We
man
had
of
him take
mystery.
some online quizzes to see who he lined up with, and I personally love this one. I wanted to make sure we mentioned it. Was April Ludgate
I took
from
a
Parks
quiz,
and Rec.
and it says I'm April Ludgate. I don't know if you're Parks
I mean,
and Rec
who are
fan,
we to
I don't
argue
know.
with a highly reliable,
Internet
online
quiz,
quiz?
yeah.
Yeah, who are we?
For those of you that don't know, April Ludgate is like a sinister, super dark humor,
If you don't know
Never
who April
smiles.
Ludgate is,
It's complete opposite
where have you
of
been?
me. But we talked about some other ones, and we threw like a bunch of names up there. And
yeah,
there's-
we had Turk from Scrubs. I said
Yeah.
Winston from New Girl.
I do love New Girl. Oh,
He wants to be Joey from Friends.
I did.
So we just brought one back. We talked about it during the when we talked about the zombie apocalypse, and we thought Rick Grimes. We could see him,
From The Walking Dead, yeah.
leading people through the zombie apocalypse.
Carl. We're not
got to
monsters.
believe.
We're not. All right, so that was our TV characters. And yes, Tim's probably the one with the best character.
Not even mad.
Little
Moving forward.
jealous. Yeah.
Tad bit jealous there.
It's a bit jealous.
Let's move on to overall thoughts on week 10. Really sad week for 3 of the 4 of us sitting at the table. So,
Yep.
Sean, take it away.
Yeah, so
What's
that
your
was my
thoughts?
observation. Is the you guys mentioned it in the chat. We all lost this week, so
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys enjoyed that. You know, the podcasters, the expert and analysts up here, we got our butts kicked this week and did not win a game.
Yeah. My thoughts were all about the matchups. When you're going through bye weeks like this, you have to look at that waiver wire for matchups to try to get you over the hump. Overthinking it can happen too. You know, I'm like, do I start this guy over that? He's playing this team.
Like not starting Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, or
Or Matt Breida.
Or yeah, I know Matt Breida went off. I was so glad he go there. Didn't help me anyways. Still didn't make it back. I was like, he set him on his bench. Or like giving Daniel the advice that the Jets are going against the Bills, man. That's a matchup you got to go. He texted in our group. He wanted his $30 fantasy back, and he wanted to sue us as a podcast. And then like little things of like Pittsburgh versus Carolina, that Thursday night game. David was texting me and he said, "Okay, I need your help. Who do I start? Fitzpatrick or Roethlisberger?" And I had a basketball coach today tell me that he had this dilemma. He went the other way and started Fitzpatrick over Roethlisberger. And I was like, "Oh, really, man?" He's like, "Well, you're thinking 400 yards, you get a couple of touchdowns." I'm like, you couldn't go wrong either way. And I remember telling David, I said that Roethlisberger will probably get you the touchdowns. Fitzpatrick might, but he'll probably throw 3 interceptions. I was wrong, but I told him correctly. Pick up.
That's what I told him this week too.
Yeah.
Good job.
So we actually had some fantasy advice. We did one Kalana right and did the other Kalana wrong with Daniel. Did Daniel lose
We're
this week?
Kalana neutral. That's fine.
Kalana neutral. We're fine. It's
Yeah,
okay.
Daniel lost, I think.
Doesn't look like which one we like the most. The one that didn't move away.
All right, so Tim, you actually had some thoughts on this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've just observed the kind of the trends that teams have run. I think Ryan's lost 2 of 3. I've won, I think, 3 in a row now. A couple other guys are
Joe's
hitting
on a
hot.
run.
Joe's on a tear.
3 in a row.
Chris is trending down, so it's just really funny.
Dun.
I
State of the
remember.
cellar.
I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at my team and I was like highly questioning, where I was headed. And then I
Yeah.
had 2 monster weeks back to back, and then I snuck by this last week. But it really is just
Second time.
Yeah, it's just a trend. It's hard to. I think it's just a testament to don't panic. Trust your lineup, trust your gut, trust your matchups.
Unless you suck.
Don't panic and trade all your players away, Chris.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
2 players.
Yeah. So I think you
They
just
were bench
stick
guys.
with what your lineup is, and don't panic at any moment because each week different players are going off, and you just have to ride the highs and the lows sometimes, and that's just kind of what I've observed over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, 5-game win streak from Joe.
Yeah.
when we were trying.
Man,
Wow.
We'll get into this later, when we talk about our Super Bowl picks and all that. But
Yeah.
it's hard not to look at Joe's team and
Be fearful. I got to
Be a
play
little-
him this week.
yeah, I'd be concerned.
He's on a bye with most of his guys, and his lineup is still too good.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's in a good spot.
All right, and then Ryan, I see you have some props to give Morgan or something here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Congrats.
All right.
It means a lot to him, I'm sure.
Now we did. You want to talk the kicker segment here, Sean?
Yeah,
before we move
so
on?
we teased it last week, but we did actually head out to the field, kick some field goals. We're happy to report that we could easily start for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who always need a
sir.
good kicker.
Keep it
No,
20
it actually
yards
didn't
in
go
it.
that great, but you guys can watch and see. If you're listening on the podcast, we'll go ahead and keep on rolling for you guys. But check out the YouTube. I guarantee you it's worth it, especially the way Ryan likes to approach football. So
Hashtag
Yes.
we love kickers.
hashtag ban kickers.
Yes. Hashtag Ryan's not good at kicking.
All right, so enjoy.
All right. We are out here. I don't know what he's doing. Ready to show up NFL kickers.
Oh, that's
We're backing up the little hashtag ban kickers here. We're gonna see and actually show you viewers how easy it is to kick from the NFL extra point mark. All right, 33 yards from the goalpost. We are going to make it. We're gonna make it look easy, or we're gonna look extremely foolish. Let's watch.
You got a butt wiggle? Each step.
Say your prayers now. He looks good.
It's not bad.
Oh! I even did the little thing at the end.
Way left. I don't know why.
Everyone has a bad first rep. So I'm not letting that get me down. Keep
I'm
him.
gonna quote Ryan Meckes here. Everybody has a bad first date. It's all about the second one.
Exactly.
Put the money on the second date.
Exactly.
Nailed it.
All right.
Hit 20 yards out now. Oh, and the uprights and we're good. Old school kick style. All right. Here we go. You gotta keep it holding.
All right, ready?
All right, thank you for watching our beautiful display of kicking.
I think we proved one thing, and that's that this kicking thing is too easy. So
Yeah.
kickers really shouldn't be counted in our.
Dude, we just wanted to show you the misses to stay humble.
Kicking
But
is
we
not.
are legit kickers.
Kickers are people, but they're not fantasy players.
I
That's all
just,
have to
yes.
They are fantasy players. They literally are
say. They
fantasy
won't
players.
be next year.
And the way that Ryan kicks, that's why he has so much respect for the real
You
ones.
have a fuzzy
Oh, thank you.
beard.
It's my beard.
It's clean. Nice.
Gotta smooth out the cast there.
See how funny we are? Oh my gosh.
All right, so we're back. That was fun.
for it.
As you can see, we're all really bad at kicking footballs,
Oh, yeah.
especially Ryan, which, as Chris mentioned, is probably why he appreciates them so much. So, what did you think from that, there, Tim?
I mean, I was,
Your unbiased opinion.
as far as approach, I must say, Chris had probably the most smooth approach.
Yes. Pretty.
I would say pretty consistent. The one he did nail was right down the middle. The most amusing, I think everybody will agree, was definitely Ryan. For someone who is works out a bunch and is into jiu-jitsu and all that sort of stuff, that may have been the most unathletic, unathletic approach I've ever seen. Just as a whole,
Looks
you know,
like
I don't know if that ball traveled in the air more than 2 yards. So,
Sometimes it didn't get like a foot off the ground. It was just like,
and then Sean over here with the straight back, you know,
Old
run
school.
straight up and tow it. You got some up there, some
Just
not
accurate,
so much. Yeah.
just never far enough.
Sean would have been the kicker with that flat front for the cleats. You ever seen
that's
that
what I
back in the
needed,
day?
yeah.
That's
There
toe
you go.
kickers right there.
There you go.
Exactly.
I would have been the guy that pulled my hamstring the first time I tried. So
Dude, my leg
was
is
so
killing me.
scared about
Has your
doing
leg
that.
been hurting?
My shins for some reason.
You're kidding.
I don't know. We only kicked like 12 balls. I don't understand what happened.
I was like, oh man.
You guys know that in my brain, I was like going into that really cocky and confident.
just go ahead and go
Really?
look back at that video.
Yeah.
Just remember that when you need a little dose of humble pie over
Yeah,
there.
I ran into that field. I was like, these suckers, like, I'm going to like blow them away. This is going to go great.
And then you went to like WikiHow to figure out how to line up, how to kick, and how to line. He
Yeah.
kept lining the ball incorrectly, but he
It was
wouldn't
like
listen.
tilted this way.
Tilted,
laces this way.
sideways. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
no,
that's
no.
why.
That's it. We figured it out. Nothing to do with that grandpa approach.
Yeah. I don't run like that normally.
All the ladies out there, that's not how he runs.
No. Yeah.
You should see him play Ultimate Frisbee. It's much better.
Yes. All right, let's go to our waiver wire.
It's actually
Yeah, we
caused-
condensed this.
Pickups,
We
yes.
It's
condensed
actually
it a little
caused
bit.
like a serious questioning in my mind of how I look in a lot of areas in life.
He's gonna film himself from. How do I look walking
Like
around? the
walking,
house?
running, standing.
Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with the waiver wires, we're going to condense a little more.
Oh, yeah, big
We're
time.
not really releasing this in a time that it really helps you. So we're just going to quick mention a few. If you have somebody, then we'll say one each, and then we'll get into a matchup because that's going to help people more, those start-sit decisions. So I have Josh Adams. This is a little bit more of a deeper league, I think.
Very.
If you're in a 10-team league, I'm not sure you're going to be able to roster Josh Adams, but he's got the potential to take that LeGarrette Blunt role. I think he's starting to pick up steam in the backfield. They like him. He's a guy they drafted. Doug Peterson, I think, talked about it this week. Not that you can believe anything he says about his running backs, but he talked about needing to get him the ball more. And it is when they're functioning correctly, the Eagles have a really good offensive line. So you could be looking at a really good, LeGarrette Blunt light if you hang on to Josh Adams. So that's your pickup.
All right. Mine, Old Faithful, as in breaking our hearts, Jordan Reed.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with Paul Richardson having the shoulder injury, they actually, I think it was once or twice, they had lined him up outside as a receiver, outside receiver. He tied in on the
believe it.
outside, and he did a couple of slants in there using his big frame. He capitalized on his targets, and I think that the Redskins are going to start using him a little bit more with their injuries and to kind of help out Adrian Peterson and
Do you know how
and
many
those guys in the
concussions he's
backfield.
had?
Well, you know what?
He hasn't been out.
It's
Injury
just-
has not been the
yeah.
issue this year.
He
really.
doesn't look like
I'm
the old
just questioning
school
if
Reed.
he can think still.
He doesn't look
Well,
like
the
that
other thing to
anymore.
consider there too, his offensive line is in shambles. So
Yeah.
Alex Smith is going to be looking for the quick releases, and I think Jordan Reed falls into that.
Yeah, and they're splitting everything out.
Dr.
everything.
Tim, what happens when a guy gets 9 concussions?
I mean, we can go loads into this if we wanted to, but he is at an increased risk for obviously more concussions. Doesn't take as much to get another concussion. That sort
Brain
of stuff.
damage.
Yeah.
But we don't. Yeah, we'll go into long term effects. Maybe on a whole injury podcast. Maybe at the season's end.
Yeah, there we go. An
I don't know how
off-season.
many he's had, but it's way up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're like me and probably in dire need of a tight end that's actually going to do
He's not a
something,
bad play.
Jordan Reed will, yeah.
Do you just get to a certain point in your career when you're like, screw it, I've had so many, like, just go for it? and-
Some guys in the league, yeah, you hear
Yeah,
stories
like
that way.
Josh McCown. You ever seen him run?
Yeah. Looks like me.
He does not run with regard for his life.
Kind of looks like me.
All right, Ryan,
better.
what is your waiver wire?
Can't tell you.
Exactly. Tim, what do you got?
A guy that I really like that I haven't really been able to roster is Christian Kirk.
I like him a lot,
Out of
too.
Arizona, he's a young guy and he's not getting a ton of targets, but he's been averaging somewhere between the 6-7 range, which I think is a productive target share for him. And he's a long play receiver. I mean, a lot of his yards come down the field. He's been able to break a couple for a touchdown, so he's a little bit more touchdown dependent. But if you look over the last couple weeks for him, he's had it's decent production as far as the yardage goes. I know he laid a stinker this last week of what was supposed to be a good matchup, but
Right.
I could look for him to bounce back from that. in his upcoming game. So, I like him long term. I think you play him by the matchup going against Oakland. I mean, I could expect some big splash plays coming there. So.
Who'd you compare
Yeah,
him to?
he's got 12.5, 5.5, 16.5, 10.7,
Yeah.
7.2, 11.7.
He's a PPR guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to be kind of a boom or bust guy.
More boom.
Kind of like a Will Fuller-esque.
I'm surprised that he's available because he's put up, in the teens points probably half of his games.
He's like Sterling Shepard, who just kind
Yeah.
of stays on our waiver wire and gets in the
he's
top.
another one of those good quality guys that, it's hard to trust him. That's probably why he's there. But I think if you're looking for somebody on a bye week to replace, one of your studs, then maybe
Yeah.
take a chance. Though, if you want a high floor guy, or necessarily high floor, but a high ceiling, boom or bust kind of guy, then I think Christian Kirk's a good option.
I think we just can't trust Arizona at this moment. I think it's
Yeah.
one of the things you're
They
looking
see-
at. They're not the same. It's not Carson Palmer throwing the ball.
But I'm looking at the matchup for this week,
yeah,
specifically
against
with Oakland
Oakland,
there.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe not necessarily long term, but this weekend in particular.
So yeah, we can transition to that. That's the other thing we're going to do. Instead of going through a full waiver wire segment, we're going to just talk about a specific matchup. Like I said, start sit decisions. So mine is the Oakland Arizona game. For the NFL, it's a very gross game. Two teams that are just
Ugly.
nowhere near playoff contention. But for fantasy, I think you can find some goodness in there. So like he said, Christian Kirk, he's not a bad play. These defenses aren't that great, especially Oakland's has been real bad. I just think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the running backs. Now, Arizona's defense has been better against running backs lately, but I still think Doug Martin and Jalen Richard can be flexed if you need it. Fitz has actually come on a little bit. It looks like this offense has gotten a little better. Now David Garrard is the offensive coordinator there.
Yes. Was it
He's
not
a-
David Garrard?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The other Jacksonville.
You're Byron Leftwich.
Byron Leftwich,
Yeah.
the other one.
The other Jacksonville, yeah.
So he's now taken over there. He's kind of an Arians guy, implementing his system. So I think David Johnson has got a real good shot to be an RB1 again this week. I think you're going to really be able to depend on David Johnson the rest of this season. I don't like saying this for Joe's sake because I've tried to get David Johnson so often, but if you have David Johnson or you acquired him, he's going back into the lineup. Start him every week. He's got a great rest of season schedule. I think this is more what you were drafting him for. He won't be, that number 1 or 2 on the week, but he's going to be in the top 10, I think, pretty consistently.
And
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I think when you start a rookie quarterback, you're not necessarily tanking isn't necessarily the first thing on your mind.
Yeah.
Like the
Well, you're trying to
Browns-
figure out what you
yeah.
got. You're trying to give
Yeah.
him reps. You're trying to just put together an offense that he can succeed in. So
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm going with here is the obvious game, Rams against Chiefs. Finally,
cheating.
Monday night has picked up a real good game.
yeah,
All right. It's amazing for real football, even more amazing for fantasy. But the thing that makes it so intriguing is that Kansas City right now, they're in the bottom ranking in defense, like 22nd. And the Rams are 17th, kind of whatever rankings you're looking at. So they're at the top of the bottom half or the bottom of the top half, but they're the quality of their run and pass defense is what makes it so intriguing because with injuries in the defensive backfield, looking at Tyreek Hill for Kansas City, Watkins, if he gets off the stretcher, can go out there and wreck shop. Travis Kelce, because the secondary is vulnerable. That front 3-4 guys that they rotate up front makes it really hard for running games. But Seattle was able to run the ball.
I was going to
all
say,
day.
I think the Rams give up a good amount on the ground the last couple of days, and this could be a kind of a sneaky play for Kareem Hunt. I mean, you're going to play him
Sneaky.
regardless.
Yeah, you're
not so
gonna-
much sneaky, but I think it could be a better game than what we're anticipating for
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt coming out of
And
this one.
The one thing for Rams players is the tight end sets. With Cooper Kupp going out, all right, McVay is all about keeping his lineup simple, so guys can't rotate players in every time he goes. He wants to play fast, and his guys can do multiple things. It seems simple, but he's kind of telling to stop me at what I'm doing. And with those tight ends, Higbee and Everett, if you need a tight end again, which is something that all of our leagues really kind of need, take a look at there because they might start using them a little more because they need to find a reliable third option behind Woods and Cooks, and I think they'll turn to a tight end before they go to wide receiver 4.
Yep. All right, Tim, you got somebody for us?
Yeah, so I'm intrigued by the Minnesota-Chicago matchup. I think it's a Sunday night game.
Yeah.
It's a big game.
Got
These
flex
are
out,
two
yeah.
pretty quality defenses, so you're really kind of questioning whether or not you can start people in this game. One guy in particular I think is kind of interesting is Kirk Cousins against that Chicago defense. I think he could still have a good game. Just kind of depends. Coming out of the bye, I think is helpful for them in particular.
Right.
Hopefully Stephon Diggs is healthy. He's promising that he's playing.
Yeah, he came out and
who
said he
knows?
would, yeah.
You can't ever trust players anyhow. But I think they have the offensive weapons in place coming out of the bye to still have a productive day against Chicago. On the other side of the ball, I'm looking at Jordan Howard, and I question every week, should I just drop him at this point? He's just not trustworthy, so touchdown dependent. And I could see him going off in this game just the same. It takes 2 touchdowns for him and he gets 40 yards, and all of a sudden he has 15, 16 points. So it's hard to trust him. But I could see this being a good Tariq Cohen dump off game.
I definitely agree with that because they've been picking on Minnesota linebackers.
Yep.
And I watch every Minnesota game, so Cohen is that guy that can really wreck shop against the Vikings.
Trey Burton, I think, is in that same boat. The receivers, I think, is kind of questionable. I know Taylor Gabriel kind of came on there when A-Rob was out. He had a goose egg on Sunday, didn't he?
Yep. 0.
That was pretty surprising. Obviously, Allen Robinson had a huge game. I don't expect that from him this week in Minnesota, but I'd be surprised if Taylor Gabriel got shut out this week.
What about Trubisky? You think he's been playing easier defense these last couple of weeks when he faces a good one?
Honestly, I like Trubisky. I own him in another league. With his legs, he's proven that he has a good fantasy floor. And at this point, they've scored, I think, 3 touchdowns at least every game over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I think with his running game ability, I think he has a high fantasy floor, and I think at this point he's almost matchup proof.
Yeah.
I'm borderline there with him because
That's crazy.
he's just produced so well, and I'm pretty surprised by it. But I would still play him. I'd roll him out this week.
Then I got to ask the doctor here. I have Dalvin Cook, newly acquired from Chris.
No, I hate you.
He had a 70-yard run, played just limited snaps in that before bye week. You think he's full go, ready to go?
I think for that one game back before a bye, you couldn't hope to see anything better from him.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything pop up on the injury report about him hurting himself on that 70-yard run, which, who knows that was the play to do it. That would have really sucked. Sucked.
Yeah.
But I think they've done a great job handling how he's returned. They limited his snaps the second time. Sure. They kind of limited him. He had one game back to kind of get his feel, and then he had another bye week to kind of, or not another bye week, but went into a long rest to kind of recover. I think he's locked and loaded, ready to take on the load. So
Yeah, I just worry about Murray taking away goal line
That's what I would say. I don't
carries.
think.
That's it. I think
Exactly.
Cook's there for the rest of.
I think they're going to hand it right back to him. They may. I mean, was he getting over 70% of the snaps before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they may
'Cause he's a
back that
three-down
off to
back.
like a 65% just to get him a little more rest on that hamstring. But yeah, I think he's a full go. It's tough that you have to come back against Chicago because that's a really
it's not
good
an
run
ideal
defense.
matchup.
No.
But if you have him, you've been waiting to start him. This is the game. Start him.
Yeah, and I'm a Chicago Bear defensive owner. I'm pretty happy about that. So
They're
I'm still
good.
rolling them out against Minnesota. They've shown that they can kind of get banged up a little bit too. Kirk Cousins can turn the ball over at times. So I'm still going to roll them out there this week. There's not a ton of great options out there. I kind of like it still. So I'm still rolling with the defense. On the other side, the Minnesota D, can you start them against Chicago? I think that's a little bit more questionable with how Chicago's offense has been rolling lately.
Yeah,
So.
if they give up sacks, that's what helped Minnesota the week before. I'm just not quite sure. They get the ball out quick out of Trubisky's hands.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal play calling that side. So it would be tough.
And then we wanted to give you a defensive streamer because this is usually a waiver wire that you might do later in the week. Me and Chris kind of had the same one here, Arizona.
Yep.
We talked about the game a little bit earlier, but Oakland has given up on the season. They're really bad. They like to turn the ball over, and they don't score a lot of points. That's a recipe for...
Is that a primetime game?
No.
Okay.
I would hope not.
Oh, God, hope not.
Never will be.
But no, yeah, it's going to be pretty low scoring. I think Vegas had it at like a 41 over under, and I would think Arizona's going to score a lot of those points. It's been rough for those Oakland Raiders, and Arizona's defense has actually come on a little bit in the last few weeks here. So,
Yep.
all right, and then we got the pickup line of the week here.
All right. Yeah. I gotta throw out a pickup line.
Yeah,
Which
let's
one?
hear it from
All
Dr.
right.
Love.
Dr. Love. All right, so this pickup line, here you go. use this on a lady if you're walking around, the parking lot. Say, hey, are you a parking ticket? Because you got fine written all over you. Boom.
It's the best one yet.
Use that at a Walmart parking lot. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's where you want to
Yeah,
go, right?
that's where you go.
Hell
Ryan.
no.
So yeah, the pickup line of the week. This is just a player that's got picked up and was a worthwhile pickup. So this was actually 2 weeks ago that I picked him up, but it was right before the game started, and he was injured. Went into my IR spot, but Allen Robinson. I don't know how that slipped past everyone else, and Daniel had him on the waiver wire there, but I picked him up and put him on my bench, and I was pretty happy I was, except for this week he had 30 points on that bench and did not help my fantasy team at all.
Could have used those 30.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't have even
It
helped.
wouldn't- oh, yeah. You went up against
Joe had like 160 points, just like Tim did the week before.
Yeah.
Respect, Joe.
Good. There you go.
You guys are putting up some serious points. It's almost as if we switched to PPR.
Yeah, exactly. I know. We got to
Full
get used
point
to this.
PPR.
100
Yeah.
points is not going to win you a game anymore.
Nope.
No.
All right, so we had the appreciation for the kickers here. Ryan is probably even closer in tune with his kicker kind, and so give us your kicker whisperer, kicker of the week.
Man, let me pull him back up. Obviously, Vinatieri every week, but
I guess he's
Been a terror.
It is surprising that he's still pretty much available in most leagues.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. He did miss a field goal at the end, toward the end of the game last week. It was so shocking. It was a 52-yarder. And how old is this guy?
Yeah,
He's
like
still on the
40
leg. It
40
just went a
something,
little
yeah.
over. Everyone's like, "Why are you kidding me? It's Vinatieri kicking."
Fairbairn for the Texans is another good one if you need a guy.
A little more excitement, more gusto.
Yeah, man, you're right.
Fairbairn for the Texans. We'll start him in your fantasy football lineup, gentlemen.
All right, and then the guys in our league, I'm sure you're excited about this. We're
Here we
gonna
go.
do a little bit
Prediction
of
time.
a playoff prediction here. We're gonna call our shot, see who we think's gonna make it. So, beginning of the season, we talked about who we thought was gonna make it to the Super Bowl and who's gonna win it. Now we're only about 4 weeks out. It's shaping up, but there's still some spots up for grab. Even me down in 7th or 8th place there, I think I still have somewhat of a shot with this. You can get like 1.5 wins a week. So I'll start it off here. Our playoff prediction. I have the 1 seed being Ryan, which is what he currently is.
Yeah.
I have Tim slipping up into that number 2 spot.
Slippery snake.
I have. I'm sorry. Yeah. I have Tim running, and then I have Phil going to the 3rd, which I think he's currently out of the playoffs right now.
Yeah, he
which
currently
would be
is.
kicking Chris out.
Nope,
And
no
then I
good.
have Joe sliding down to that 4th spot. I just think that Phil is basically the Saints are just on fire, and that's all Phil needs. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. So Phil's just going to continue to dominate. And then Joe has just been on a tear, as we've talked about. Ryan looks like he's going to get Connor the rest of the year. That's a huge boost for his team.
It's actually, I should be happy about it.
Oh, you should be extremely. I would
honest.
be very happy.
Yeah.
That's,
Your running back duo has really carried you through this
I
season.
mean,
so,
he's almost
yeah.
guaranteed 50 points a week with those 2 running
Yep.
backs. Like that's what he gets.
Yes.
And then Tim, he's really his wide receivers have stepped up. Now Brandon Cooks is going to be even more valuable with Cooper Kupp going out. So I think he's just going to kind of maintain that area. Then I have Ryan and Phil in the Super Bowl, and then as I predicted at the beginning of the season, I think that Phil is going to take it.
Woo.
Yeah.
All right, so mine is pretty similar. Still kept Ryan at the 1 seed. I got Joe coming all the way up to the 2 seed. Phil at 3, and I had to put myself at 4 because I believe in myself. Even though, honestly, Tim should take over me in that 4 spot, especially how he beat me. But I'm hoping that I can take advantage of beating Joe this week, and it'll kind of help me teeter back into position. Joe, I had Phil going at 3. Phil, I see you dropping out of the playoffs because I think that Saints-dependent playoff push might bite him in the butt
Is that
during those
Carolina
2 weeks.
I think it's Carolina that week, right?
I think,
In
was it
week
the
15
first
is
or the second? Yeah, I can't remember.
Carolina and Pittsburgh, I think. are his
Pittsburgh,
two.
yeah, I think the
So something, I feel like New Orleans will win the game, but it's like, oh no, they couldn't run the ball, and Breeze had an ugly game. They still won, and it will hurt Phil in the end. I have Joe beating Ryan in our Super Bowl. Joe, it's like it's a diversified portfolio when it comes to his fantasy players. After he gets through these bye weeks, They're matchup proven. He's not stacked up on anybody. They're just so well spread out and dominating right now that I think it just keeps rolling to the championship.
He's gonna have a real tough keeper situation. I'm realizing he's gonna have Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster,
I so badly want to go to
Christian
3.
McCaffrey, David Johnson. Like he's got some young stars on his squad.
Yeah, so guys at the bottom of our league right now that get the top tier draft picks here, make sure you leave your first round open because there's going to be some good guys left over.
I'm gonna start tanking.
Not even looking at rookies. We're looking at like proven studs off Joe's roster.
All right, Tim, do you have one for us?
Yeah, I don't see Joe losing anytime soon, honestly. And honestly, his matchups get better. It seems as the playoffs come nearer.
It's not
And
fair.
like you were choosing between James White and David Johnson and Nick Chubb,
Nick Chubb.
and
forgot
like
about
it
Nick
just
Chubb.
doesn't even make
McCaffrey.
sense. You know, he took a flyer on Nick Chubb. You know, I'm kind of kicking myself because
You
I
dropped
drafted
him, yeah.
I drafted him, and I had a hard time seeing him getting on the field and making it relevant with Carlos Hyde there, and I wasn't patient enough. And that's kind of been the story of my season.
It was a
I,
coaching change.
I drafted David Johnson, bro. So
Yeah, a couple
And
years ago
dropped
before he
him.
broke out.
That's hurtful.
we
That is
both,
pretty
yeah.
Yeah, so I have Joe continuing to climb. I have Phil battling his way back. I don't know quite why he slipped the way he did. You know, I think he does kind of go as the Saints go. They're peaking right now. I think they'll lose a game or two, which may force Phil to lose a game or two. But ultimately, I see him continuing to rise up to the second one. I see Ryan on the downtrend. He's got James Conner obviously and Melvin Gordon, which is just hard to do, to beat that. But I'm not convinced on the rest of his lineup. He's very optimistic on his wide receivers. I do
It's been
think
like that all year.
Yeah,
Like there's
yeah.
no way you should be rolling
it
like
is.
this.
Josh Gordon. I mean, he's a great option. I don't consider him a wide receiver one the same way that he does.
That's why I traded, but it's bit me in the butt so far.
Yeah, and this one it hurts a little bit. I think David's going to beat me in my matchup this weekend with him.
Really?
I think he
Could
just
be the
has,
tiebreaker.
I think it'll be a tiebreaker. I beat him by I think it was 0.8 points in week one. So we're coming full circle here. I do expect it to be another nail biter this week, but I think
Okay.
David will kind of power through. He kind of shot himself in the foot with that trade earlier, but somehow with the emergence of Aaron Jones, that's why I have him peaking up and me kind of slipping out. So we'll see how that goes.
I do like the
As
pick.
far as Super Bowl goes, I think Joe would beat David pretty handedly. I think Phil would handle Ryan, but I don't see anybody beating Joe, including Phil.
It's like Phil's being like the bridesmaid, never the bride. Like he's right there.
I got him being the bride this year.
Yeah, we got him up there.
All right, Ryan, what do you got?
Yep, I got Joe as the 1, Phil as the 2, Tim as the 3, and myself as the 4.
Oh, you got yourself sliding all the way down to 4.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I look at the team strength of the other guys, and maybe that's just me being humble. But
You saw the kicking
I
video.
definitely think Joe versus Phil is going to be the Super Bowl. That I'm sure of.
And then who do you think takes it? Phil or Joe?
I think Joe. I'm on the Joe train.
All right, so 3 Joe votes.
Yeah.
I think the craziness would be if we don't see a Joe Phil
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised.
championship.
But
If it was, like none of them are in that one, I'll be like that had to be a bad
I'm not sure
week.
what happened during my 2 peak weeks there, but if I can just somehow replicate that in the playoff times, then-
Bears,
You got to
Bears.
talk to your players.
That's
Just amp them up.
You get like 40 points between your Bears, the Bears and the kicker. That's pretty darn good.
And then Tim already talked about him, but we also picked a combined here, Dark Horse, who we think can make it.
Yes.
So don't give up, David.
No,
That's who we say can do it. He mentioned Aaron Jones. I think that shores up that RB2 spot. That was a big weakness on his team.
Yeah, it was.
He didn't have that. And it looks like Aaron Jones is going to be pretty solid. They want to get him more work. I mean, he looks like a beast. I don't know why they haven't been using him.
And even Aaron Rodgers advocated for him this week. Wants to get him the ball more. Thinks he should be more involved in the offense. And when your QB stud is all about a guy in your lineup, you got to be excited about that.
I always
So,
just think it's weird when you have to go to the media to start saying, "Please,
Yeah.
let me hand the ball off to this running back." Like,
Oh, gosh.
is that it's like
The
a
NFL
meeting
is
room for
middle
that?
school.
You know,
Fire.
it's just
NFL
like,
is middle school.
Fire.
what is up
Yeah.
with McCarthy?
McCarthy.
Yeah, like why
That-
don't you want to
He
listen
is
to
the
your
reason
boy?
they haven't gone to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The only thing that you have to do, David, to make this playoff run, you got to pick the right tight end each week because you have 2 on the same team, and it's probably going to be one that goes off every other week. So just
yeah,
pick,
trade for like an OJ Howard or
Yeah, or
Kelsey for Zeke or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, hit me up.
Hey,
I think I got a text going there too. Yeah.
All right, we got the doctor in person here.
Doctors in the house.
So the injury report gets a little redundant. I don't know if you guys have picked up on this. Really, the medical field's
Some
not all
guys
that
say
hard. It's a lot of the same thing over and over
We
again.
do got a new guy, number one. On your
Yeah,
list
so
there.
obviously a big injury update. Cooper Kupp.
Poor guy.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I think this is a case. I talked a little bit about it. Coming back too soon from injuries and what that kind of does for you. He came. I truly think he came back from his MCL a little bit too quick. I think
Like the same game.
well, yeah, he obviously tried that, and then I think he sat just one game, maybe
One game,
two?
I think it was.
Functionally, it's tough. I mean, you're going to change your mechanics as a result, and he had a non-contact injury, which is a result of poor mechanics, which is probably the result of coming back from too soon from his MCL injury, which that's a shame. As far as that offense goes, I'm pretty excited from my standpoint as an owner of Brandon Cooks. I think David should be excited with Robert Woods. I'm a little less keen on. I think it's Josh Reynolds is the wide receiver 3 there. But I think if you're looking for a tight end, go out
I was
there.
going to say Everett is.
Yeah, he
not a
looked like
bad
he had
option.
himself a pretty good game this
Everett
last
and Higbee,
weekend.
yeah,
and
those are two.
I could see. I mean, I'm surprised a tight end hasn't been fantasy relevant until this point. But I think this may be the catalyst that kind of helps the tight end become more of a role in that offense. So, Royce Freeman is another guy, ankle injury. He's been out for a little bit. This is a guy that a lot of people drafted high, with a lot of upside to him. But at this point, I don't consider it much more than a handcuff. I mean, Philip Lindsay has looked so good.
Yeah, they'll stick with him.
Yeah, I think they'll.
Yeah.
I think they'll stick there. Chris Carson. This is another one that's kind of a questionable backfield. Rashad Penny had a monster game on a couple of touches. I mean, he really didn't touch the ball that much, and he
Speaking
did
of-
quite a bit with it.
Drafted high with. Hoping.
Yeah, so that one hurts.
Yep.
And then Mike Davis has also been really productive, and so that just muddies that backfield even more, makes them maybe all three of them a little bit more unreliable, a little bit more questionable to use. But they've been running the ball so effectively that I think you may be able to throw each of them into a flex at some point, because they each have a role there. James Conner coming back from a concussion. Thankfully, he had a long week. I don't think he has any issue getting back. He's supposed to practice tomorrow.
Yep.
He
I was
obviously
so
has a tough
confused.
matchup.
Yeah, watching that Thursday game. I was like, why is he out? Why is he out?
Yeah, that was sad because they were obviously exploding offensively, and I think he only had like 13 or 14 points or something like that.
Ryan could have used a couple touchdowns at the end there.
Yeah. Jimmy Graham, he has a knee injury that seems kind of vague and nondescript. He's been limited in practice this week. He's proven that he is kind of touchdown dependent, but he has upside. I mean, he plays in a pass heavy offense, and I think it's just kind of game script dependent whether or not he's going to be involved and how many targets he sees. As Aaron Rodgers realizes that these young receivers aren't quite cutting it, then he may turn Jimmy Graham a little bit more. So some upside there.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco,
Good old Flacco.
undiagnosed as far as I know, hip injury. He's questionable for the game on Sunday.
They're making it sound like he's not going to play.
Yeah, I've also heard that he doesn't need to practice to play on Sunday, so he's going to be a true game time decision. But this raises up the question of Lamar Jackson. With his legs, does he become a fantasy relevant? Does he have a floor there because of how he can run the ball? That offense is a little tough to trust, but that's just a question you want to ask if you want to take a flyer on somebody at the quarterback position.
I think it might be too late if you wait, but in my opinion, I got to see it. I'm not wasting a roster spot on Lamar Jackson because what we've seen so far has not been anything spectacular.
Well,
so.
I think they've also been shooting themselves in the foot a little bit there in Baltimore. It seems as Joe Flacco's getting on a roll. They throw Lamar Miller out there to kind of mess with it. Joe Flacco stands in the corner.
Oh, yeah,
And,
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I don't think that offense has been very fluid with him trying to roll the same thing that the Saints are doing. It's just not working so well for them. So I think if Lamar Jackson got into the game and had his own flow, that it may turn out a little bit different. But that's my own personal opinion. AJ Green, toe injury. These are likely, it's a turf toe injury probably. I've seen reports that he's out till December. So these are annoying to come back from. They linger. Obviously you walk. Every time you take a step, you're bending that toe. That's the same ligament that you've damaged.
I heard them
so-
say that he's not going to have surgery. He visited a doctor and said he doesn't need that.
Well, that's good. So he'll stay in a walking boot. Anytime you're in a walking boot for a prolonged period of time, you get some muscle atrophy. You have increased risk of other injuries.
Yeah, I had AJ Green a year was very similar to this. He had an injury kind of in the middle of the season, towards the end, as they were getting out of playoff contention. I wouldn't be surprised. You might sorry, Daniel, to
might
break the
sit
news
out.
to you. Yeah, they may just be real cautious with him. If they're out of the playoffs, they might just be like, you know what? Let's heal this up. You'll be back next season.
Marvin Jones had an injury. From what I heard, I didn't actually see the injury. Is that it looked pretty severe, but it looks like he's
It was
escaped.
a bone bruise.
Yeah, so he escaped any sort of ACL, MCL damage. Bone bruises can still be pretty annoying. They can linger for a couple weeks. He's questionable for Sunday. That really just leaves Galladay. I mean, who else is there really?
Nothing. Yeah.
So, I mean, Kerryon Johnson, you're not super high on him this week, but coming out of the backfield as a receiver, maybe he gets an uptick. So who knows?
It's like the only weapon right now. So
Yeah.
you might want to play him.
The Patriots aren't on bye this week. You got Gronk and Edelman that are kind of banged up. Gronk, he's just broken.
Yeah.
He's got a back issue and an ankle injury, maybe.
He just doesn't look the same.
No, he doesn't. And it's funny. I saw a report that they were going to put him on a stretcher and just, he's getting out of New England this year, one way or the other.
Yeah.
So whether he retires or they ship him off somewhere, I think they're kind of frustrated with him and his resiliency. Edelman kind of, I think, tweaked his ankle a little bit. Obviously has a long bye week to get good with that. He's had one of the best fantasy floors from a wide receiver 2 standpoint.
Oh, yeah.
I've been thrilled with him. So the last guy I have on my list is Chris Thompson. He had a rib injury. This one is, I talked about this earlier in the year, how it's limited by pain and what he can tolerate. He has not been tolerating it well. So he has not played.
I just think of the kid in the
You're
doctor's
a
office,
wuss.
sucker.
Yeah. So, I mean, these things can linger for some time, and it takes one hit to kind of set you back. And so that can be really, really frustrating from a running back perspective because you get hit a lot.
Yes.
So,
Especially when they know you have a rib injury.
right. So, yeah, a little bit of targeting there.
Oh, yeah. A little punch.
I remember that with
Sounds
Ty
right.
Montgomery one year. It was like that. They were saying
Yeah.
they didn't want that report coming out because then they just target it.
When he does come back in there, I think he's going to be, a huge factor in that offense because of how banged up that offensive line is. Alex Smith loves to dump the ball out quick. I think
Yeah.
it'll be even more of the screen game and unloading quickly as he can. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Tim.
Thank you, doctor.
I think that's pretty much all we got for you guys this week. Hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed the kicker segment.
Please laugh at Ryan more.
You'll have to submit some characters if you have better characters for us. We kind of struggled with coming up with some TV characters for
We did.
ourselves.
maybe Phil or David can come up with a better one for Chris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so shoot us those.
Yeah, David would come out with one that's like a no duh. Like, we forgot that.
We'll hit David up. Yeah. All right. So next week, kind of more of the same. We're gonna do our normal stuff. I think we might need to bring on somebody from the league this week.
Oh, yeah. Or who is out of the league right now.
Yeah, we were talking about that. So it's just something to look forward to. Whenever we get our playoffs decided, we're talking about. If you're listening, Leroyce, we haven't talked to you about this, but we think it'd be fun for
Leroyce.
Leroyce to come in as an unbiased,
Dinner rolls coming back.
kind of give his what he thinks is going to happen in the playoffs, as he's been there so many times and knows all about it.
Yeah.
So all right, send us out of here, Ryan.
Well, I'm really glad it's over because I have to pee really bad. So like and subscribe. Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.